AITA for cutting off my mother after she refused to help me buy a house. Then flew abroad with my sister-in-law the very next week. My name is Emily. I'm 32 years old. I rent a small, run-down apartment on the outskirts of the city. I'm not living in misery, but I'm not comfortable either. I work full-time at an elementary school. Teaching first grade, my salary covers my basic needs. But saving up? That's a slow process. Still, I try. Whatever I can set aside each month, I do. I've spent nearly 7 years saving up, no eating out, no shopping sprees. I skipped out on group trips with friends to scrape together enough for a down payment on a house. My goal was simple, a small place. Just enough so I wouldn't have to move every time the landlord raised the rent. I wanted something stable. I wanted to be able to call a place my own home. My family isn't poor, not rich, but not struggling. My parents live in the suburbs, in the family house passed down by my grandparents. My dad retired early after selling his small woodworking shop. My mom still sells random stuff online. Both of them are in good health. My grandparents live with them, both in their 80s, and are still sharp. They even help with cooking and babysitting from time to time. I have a younger brother named Mike. He's 5 years younger than me. He got married a little over a year ago. No kids yet. He and his wife live downstairs in my parents' house. The place was remodeled after their wedding, and the two were given an entire floor like a mini apartment. They don't pay rent. They don't pay for utilities either. Me, I've been on my own since I was 25. I moved out after a huge argument when my mom mocked me for being single and still insisting on living alone. I didn't argue. I packed up and left. Since then, no one asked if I needed help with anything. But every time there's a family gathering, I'm the one who cooks, helps clean up, gives money, and buys gifts like clockwork. No one says anything, but it's assumed I'll take care of it. Last month, I found a perfect house. It was older, but the owner had maintained it well, and the price was much lower than market value. I was short about $20. 000 to qualify for a low-interest loan and pay the down payment. I debated for a week, then finally worked up the courage to call my mom. I clearly remember it being a Wednesday night. I called around 9 p.m. After dinner. Her voice was as usual. "Oh, why are you calling so late?" I told her I had something to ask. Then explained about the house and my finances and asked if she could help me with the down payment. I wasn't demanding anything. I wasn't asking for a handout. I said that if she could lend me the money, I'd pay it back within 2 years. Or, if not, she could co-sign the loan to help me qualify. She went quiet for a second, then said, "Goodness, what are you thinking? We have so much going on right now. I was planning to fix the roof, and we need to save it if something happens with your grandparents. There's no extra money." "Sweetie, and you're a grown woman now. You should be taking care of yourself." I wasn't surprised, but my throat still tightened. I said, "I understand," then thanked her and hung up. "No, are you doing okay?" "No. Let me think about it." Not even a second of hesitation. I wasn't angry. I just deflated. It felt like I'd crossed a line just by asking, like I was a stranger calling to borrow money. And more than anything, she didn't even try to ask anything further. She didn't ask how much the house was. She didn't ask how much I was short. She didn't ask how I planned to repay her. I went back to work like usual. I tried to forget the whole thing. I still ate instant noodles 3 times a week. I still logged every penny I spent. The following Sunday, I was scrolling through Facebook when I saw a post from my mom. She doesn't post often, but this one popped at the top of my feed. First photo, my mom, wearing sunglasses, standing beside my sister-in-law. Both were grinning ear to ear in front of an airport check-in counter. The second photo is a boarding pass. Third, the caption. It was my first time flying overseas with my beloved daughter-in-law, Europe. Here we come. Thank you to my sweet family for this amazing surprise. I read it 3 times. I couldn't believe it. Last week, she didn't even have $5 to spare. This week, she's off to Europe with my sister-in-law. International flights, hotels, meals. That's not a little surprise. I didn't say anything, didn't comment. I just stared at the screen, then turned off my phone. It was crystal clear for the first time in my life I wasn't a daughter. just someone who happened to share her blood. I turned off my phone and just sat there. The first feeling wasn't anger. It was a shock, the kind that hits you out of nowhere. Like getting slapped across the face without warning. My mom said she didn't have money, said the family had too many things to worry about. I told my grandparents that they were old and needed emergency savings. And yet, less than a week later, she was grinning at the airport, suitcase in hand, tagging my sister-in-law in the post off to Europe with my beloved daughter-in-law. I didn't know whether to laugh or curse. I had called and asked my mom to co-sign for a home loan, but I was not even asking for free money. It was a loan with a clear plan to repay. She rejected it immediately, without even blinking, and now it was apparent she was never really out of money. I sent her a message, thanks for the clarity. That's it. No emojis, no punctuation, no extra fluff. 5 minutes later, she called me. I looked at the screen. My heart raced, but my mind stayed cold. I didn't want to pick up, but I couldn't avoid it forever, so I answered. Hello, what kind of message is that? I just went on a short trip with Mike's wife. It's been a while. Why are you making a big deal out of this? I paused a few seconds, then said plainly, last week. I asked to borrow $20. 000 to buy a house. You said you didn't have it. A week later, you're flying to Europe. Am I overreacting? She hesitated for a second, then her tone softened. Well, your sister-in-law booked it. She wanted to surprise me. It would have been awkward to say no. So it's hard for you to say no to her, but easy to say no to me. You didn't ask how much I needed. You didn't ask why. You didn't ask anything. I just said no and hung up. Now, seeing you on a vacation like this, I don't know what I am to you anymore. So what? You're blaming me now. I don't owe it to everyone to help whenever they ask. Everyone's grown. You have to take care of yourself. I nodded, though she couldn't see me. Right. I understand. So now I don't owe you anything. Either. Not a call. Not a visit. Not a reply to messages. Not helping out around the house. From now on, you can relax. Everyone takes care of their own. I hung up. My heart pounded. My hands shook a little. But inside, I felt light in a sad way, but no longer carrying regret. That night, I went through my old paperwork. I closed the joint savings account I had with my mom. I opened it years ago to make transfers easier when she said she needed money for Grandpa's meds or car repairs, but now she didn't need anything from me anymore. I opened my photo drawer. I gathered every family photo taken since I moved out and tore them up, not out of hatred, but because there was no point in keeping them. Every time I looked, I saw a stranger awkwardly inserted into someone else's picture. I signed up for extra night shifts at a language center the next day. The pay wasn't great, but it meant I could save an additional few hundred each month. I'd made up my mind, even if it takes another year or two. I'll buy a house independently. A week later, my mom posted another batch of photos. Every shot was a different location: the Eiffel Tower, an Italian square, a cafe in the streets of Spain. The captions were dripping with warmth. Family is unconditional love. Thank you, my daughter-in-law, for giving me such a beautiful journey. Yeah, that's her family, her daughter-in-law, my brother, not me. I didn't comment, didn't message her again. But then, a few days later, Mike, my dear little brother, texted me. Why are you mad at Mom? She said you're overreacting and being overly sensitive. I typed my response. One line at a time, I asked to borrow money for a home deposit. She said she didn't have any. A week later, she flew to Europe with your wife. No warning, no concern about how I'm doing. I'm not overreacting. I just woke up. Seen. No reply. Makes sense. He never knows what to say when I state the truth. Since we were kids, he was pampered. I was told to be the one who gives in. When I achieved something, Mom would say, "You're smart, so you don't need help." When he failed, she blamed societal pressure. I gave gifts. And Mom told me not to waste money. His wife bought her a purse. Mom posted a story online, gushing with thanks. I'm tired. Tired of trying to prove I belong to a family that never really chose me. I used to think I was being mature, low maintenance, independent, someone who knew better than to ask for things. But that time, I was just a fool for trusting, a fool for calling, a fool for still thinking, she's my mom. And of course, she'll understand. My mom didn't understand, and she didn't want to. After that call, I turned off all social media notifications. I didn't want to see another photo. I didn't want to read another cheesy caption like family is everything. But somehow, the things you try to avoid always find a way to show up. 2 days later, my cousin sent me a messenger link. Check out your mom living the fancy European life even went to a 5-star restaurant. I clicked it. It was a video of my mom sitting in a French-style restaurant, laughing and chatting with Mike's wife. She raised a glass of wine while my sister-in-law filmed from a low angle. The caption read, "Best mother-in-law ever. Taking you to Paris has always been my dream, best mother-in-law ever." I let out a dry laugh. It echoed in my dimly lit apartment. My shadow on the wall looked small, hunched, and invisible that night. I came home late. It was drizzling. I didn't bring a raincoat and didn't bother finding shelter. Whatever. Let it rain. Let me be tired. When I got home and was changing clothes, the doorbell rang. I jumped. No one ever comes to my place at this hour. I opened the door. It was my mom, wearing a coat, glasses on, holding a fancy box of mooncakes, the expensive kind I've never bought for myself. She looked at me and smiled gently. I just got back. I thought I'd stop by since I was nearby. I stood in the doorway, blocking her path. I didn't say a word. She walked right in. It's the same old move, treating my place like her backup storage room. I glanced at the bag she put on the table. "These are pricey. You like mung bean flavor." I looked at her, cold, not angry. I'm just confused. She remembered what I liked. I answered, "I thought you didn't even remember I lived here." She looked a bit awkward but quickly tried to change the topic. "Why haven't you come home lately? Your grandparents asked about you. I wanted to tell you about my trip too." I cut her off. "You don't have to. I saw everything." Silence for a few seconds. "Did I choose not to lend you money so I could go on vacation?" "She invited me. She bought the tickets. I didn't spend a dime. It's not about the money. You said you didn't even have a single dollar to spare. I believed that. I accepted it. But you never asked any follow-up questions. Not how much I needed, not what it was for. You just said, 'I don't have it.' And that was it. I didn't think you'd take it so personally." "Personally, no. I just woke up. I realized where I stand. I'm not part of your priorities. I'm not part of that family is everything slogan you post on Facebook." My mom started to get annoyed. "That's going too far. I have a right to enjoy life, a right to have fun. You're always saying I play favorites." I answered, voice calm but firm. "You do have the right. From now on, I will. 2. The right not to come home, not to cook, not to attend family meetings, not to contribute. It's not to play the background character anymore." She opened her mouth, probably about to defend herself, but I raised my hand to stop her. "Don't bother explaining. Whatever needed to be said. You didn't say it last week. Now it's too late." I walked to the door and opened it. "You should go." She stood still for a second, then said with a trembling voice, "If you leave things like this, then you're not my daughter anymore." I turned around. "Yeah, I'm not." Then I closed the door. This time, my hands didn't shake. My heartbeat was steady. I felt like I had just removed a rope tightening around me for years. After that, I deleted her number from my phone. I turned off location sharing on Messenger. I blocked Mike, too, because I knew he'd take her side with something like, "Come on, sis, don't blow this out of proportion." But I wasn't blowing it up. I was finally doing the right thing. It's the thing I should have done a long time ago. No one should carry the emotional weight of an entire family only to be met with silence and exclusion. No one should have to call someone a mother if that title only matters when it's convenient for them. I sat down, opened my laptop, and rewrote my goals. No more plans with my mom's name on them. No more shared budgets or family columns. I'll rebuild everything, in my name, on my terms. And I know no one will be able to tear it down this time. Since that day, I haven't returned to my parents' house. Not for holidays, not for ancestral death anniversaries, not for birthdays, nothing. At first, my aunt called, asking if I was mad. I just said I'm busy. That's it. No explanation. No backstory. People can interpret it however they want. A few weeks later, my mom texted me. No apology, no concern. Just one message: I don't understand why you cut ties with the family over something so small. I read it. Didn't reply. Why? Because to my mom, I had no place. Which meant nothing. It was just a small thing. But to me, it was something I had endured for years. It took me this long to finally wake up and stop accepting it. I no longer wanted to explain. I no longer wanted to clarify. I just wanted peace. I started working more, picked up content writing gigs for an online learning center. I came home late every night, but it kept my mind busy. So I didn't have time to overthink. Money slowly started building up, slowly but steadily. At the end of the month, I bought myself a new pair of shoes. Not because I needed them, but because I liked them. Before, I would have cut that expense. I used to save for the family, for family gatherings, and the subtle guilt trips from my mom. Grandpa needs medicine. The AC broke, and your brother's wedding is coming up. Not anymore. No more reminders. No more expectations. No one is waiting for me to pitch in. And I felt lighter. For the first time, the money in my account was mine, not to solve someone else's problems. I started learning about small investments. It was nothing big, but enough to understand where my money went and how to manage it. I opened a fixed-term savings account, not for emergencies in case mom needed something, but for emergencies if I needed to walk away from everything without asking anyone. One evening, I got home earlier than usual. It was autumn. The breeze was cool. I stood on my little balcony, looking down at the busy street. Cars kept rushing by. But inside, I felt this strange quiet. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through some old messages from mom. Things like, "Can you order some meds for grandpa? Can you transfer me $5 million first? I'll pay you back tomorrow. Don't forget to come early Sunday to help with the cooking." Not a single message asking if I was tired. Not one. "Are you doing okay?" And I asked myself, what was I even living for all these years? To feel seen, to feel loved, to feel like part of a family. I used to think they'd love me if I was good enough, worked hard enough, and stayed quiet enough. But the truth is, they only loved me when I was useful and when I needed them. I was a stranger. I removed all my old family photos from Facebook. I didn't delete them. I just set them to private. Those images didn't reflect my reality anymore. I wasn't part of that family now. I wasn't the girl smiling in the far right of the photo, holding a tray of food, head tilted slightly like waiting to be acknowledged. Now I don't wait for anyone to call my name. I began rebuilding life my way. Small, simple, but everything was chosen by me. I changed the curtains, got new bed sheets. I bought myself an air fryer. The wasteful item my mom used to say was a waste of money. I read books every night, met up with friends every weekend. No more rushing home because something is going on at the house. No more guilt for saying no when relatives wanted me to help cook for some party. One friend told me, "You've changed. Emily, you look more relaxed, less tense." I nodded. I didn't deny it, because it was true. I wasn't the same person anymore. The old me lived for other people, trying to please those who were never pleased. The new me lives for herself. I don't blame my mom anymore. I'm not angry. I just learned one thing. Please don't wait for them to open a door again when it closes. Just walk away. Open your door. I'm still renting, but I'm ready now. I'm ready to buy my first home, even if it's small, even if it's far from the city center, even if it's not some dream house, because this time it'll be mine, not something helped by others. It is not something I had to borrow temporarily. I stood in front of the mirror, looked straight at myself. No sadness, no regret. Just one sentence ringing clearly in my head: I live on my terms. I walk my path, and I no longer ask anyone anything. It's nearly a year since I last returned to my parents' house. No big announcements, no dramatic cutoff. I just stopped calling. I stopped showing up for weekend meals. I stopped sending money for grandpa's meds. I stopped playing the understanding daughter in a house where everything revolved around everyone else except me. I didn't make a scene, didn't scream, didn't post online. I just kept living, for the first time. I lived without constantly checking over my shoulder, wondering if someone was judging me. At first, yeah, it felt weird. That strange silence. Something was missing, like a familiar phone call that never came. Why? Because to my mom, the fact that I had no place was just a small matter. But for me, it was something I had endured for years. It's just that I was finally clear-headed enough to stop accepting it. I didn't want to explain anymore. I didn't want to clarify. I just wanted peace. I started working more, picked up extra content writing work for an online education platform every night. I came home late, but at least my mind was busy. I didn't have time to spiral. The money slowly added up, not fast, but steady. At the end of the month, I treated myself to a new pair of shoes, not because I needed them, but because I liked them. In the past, I always cut every expense to save for the family, for celebrations, and for my mom's subtle reminders like Grandpa needs medicine, the AC's broken, and your brother's wedding is coming. Now none of that. No more reminders, no more expectations. No one's waiting for me to show up anymore. And I felt light. The money in my account was mine for the first time, not for solving someone else's emergencies. I started learning basic investment. Nothing big, just enough to understand where my money was going. I opened a fixed savings account, not for emergencies in case mom needs help, but for the day. I might need to leave everything behind and not have to ask anyone for anything. One evening, I came home earlier than usual. It was fall. The air was crisp. I stood on the little balcony and looked out at the street below. Traffic was still buzzing, but there was a strange quiet inside me. I pulled out my phone and reread some old texts from my mom. Things like, "Can you order Grandpa's meds for me? Can you transfer $5 million first? I'll pay you back tomorrow. Come home early this Sunday to help cook." Okay. Not a single message asking if I was tired. Not once, "Are you doing okay?" And I asked myself, what had I been living for all this time? For approval, for love? To feel like I belonged, I used to think that if I was good enough, hardworking enough, considerate enough, they'd care. But the truth is, they only cared when I was useful, when I needed something. I was just a burden. I removed old family photos from Facebook, didn't delete them, just set them to private. Those pictures no longer reflected my life. I wasn't part of that family anymore. I wasn't the smiling girl standing in the corner of group photos, holding a tray of food, head slightly tilted like she was waiting to be noticed. I don't wait for anyone to call my name anymore. I started rebuilding my life in my way. Small, simple, but everything was mine to choose. I changed the curtains, bought new bed sheets. I got myself an air fryer. The kind of wasteful thing my mom used to say was a stupid expense. I read every night. Met up with friends every weekend. No more rushing back because something is going on at home. No more guilt when I said no to family gatherings and cooking marathons. One day, my best friend looked at me over coffee and said, "I can't believe you did it. Separated from your family like that and stayed so calm." I smiled. I wasn't calm at first. "You reach a point where you're too tired to keep fighting." She nodded, then asked, "Do you regret it?" I paused. Then, I shook my head no. I regret not doing it sooner. I wasted too many years trying to please people who were never interested in letting me feel good enough. For many, family is a place to return to. For me, it used to be a place to endure, and now it's a place I've chosen not to return to. I still stay in touch with my grandparents. I call, check in, send photos, and wish them a happy new year. But outside of them, I've cut all ties. No mom, no Mike. No one asked why I left, so I don't need to explain why I'm not returning. I don't want to win an argument. I want peace. The kind I've never had before. I started planning again. To buy a house, a small project in the outskirts, a single-floor home, a private title, not fancy, but livable. I worked with the bank, signed the loan papers alone. My hand shook a little, but my heart was steady. No co-signer, no one to vouch for me. No one with the right to say, "You got this house thanks to your mom." No, this one I earned. With my job, my effort, and my clarity. On the day I got the keys, I stood in front of the house and took a deep breath. No parents, no moving in ceremony, no big meal like my brother had when he moved. Just me, alone. And that was enough. I opened the door. The house was empty. It still smelled like fresh paint, but I felt light. Light because I knew no one could kick me out of this place. No one could call it shared. This was mine. A real home. I sat down on the bare floor. I pulled out my phone, hesitated. Then, I opened the old message from Mom, the one inviting me home for dinner. I tapped and then deleted it, not to prove a point, to clean up feelings, clean up memories. Please clean up the softness that only made me bend in the wrong direction. If you ask me, Aita, for not replying to my mom anymore, for cutting ties while she acts like nothing happened, I'd say no, I'm not a bad person. I'm just tired. And I chose peace over continuing to beg for a place in a relationship that never made room for me.